Imagine stepping off a boat, your heart filled with hope, only to find the home you left behind completely empty. No people, no signs of struggle, just silence. And a single cryptic word carved into a tree. This isn't the start of a horror movie. It's one of America's oldest and most chilling unsolved mysteries. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony. In 1587, over 100 English men, women, and children set sail for the New World, dreaming of a new life on Roanoke Island, off the coast of modern-day North Carolina. This wasn't the first attempt to settle here, but this time it was different. This was meant to be a permanent home, a new English city named the City of Raleigh. The group was led by Governor John White, an artist and cartographer whose granddaughter Virginia Dare would become the very first English child born in the Americas. Things seemed promising. They re-established a fort, began building homes, and tried to forge relationships with the local Native American tribes. But the fledgling colony was in a precarious position. Their supplies were dwindling far faster than expected, and with winter approaching, they were vulnerable. The colonists knew they couldn't survive without a major resupply from England. They persuaded Governor White, despite his deep reluctance to leave his family, to make the perilous journey back across the Atlantic. He promised to return as quickly as possible, laden with food, tools, and more settlers. Before he left, they agreed on a contingency plan. If the colonists were forced to move, they would carve their new location into a tree. If they were in distress, they would add a Maltese cross above the carving. With that agreement in place, John White sailed away in late 1587, expecting to be back within a year. He couldn't have been more wrong. When White arrived in England, his timing was terrible. England was on the brink of war with Spain, and the formidable Spanish Armada was preparing to attack. Queen Elizabeth I, leading every available ship for the defense of the realm, issued a royal stay of all shipping. No vessels were permitted to leave English ports. White was trapped. He pleaded, he bargained, he tried everything to get a ship, but his small, private expedition was of little concern to a nation at war. The months turned into a year, then two. The war with Spain raged on, and every attempt White made to return to his family was thwarted. It wasn't until 1590, a full 3 years later, that he finally secured passage back to Roanoke. Imagine his journey back. 3 long years of anxiety, wondering if his daughter, his granddaughter, and the 100+ settlers were still alive. As his ship finally approached the shores of Roanoke Island, his crew fired cannons and played English tunes on trumpets, hoping for a familiar response. But the only reply was the echo across the empty island. When they landed, an eerie stillness hung in the air. The settlement was gone. The houses had been carefully dismantled, not violently torn down. All the boats were missing. There were no bodies, no bones, no signs of a battle or a struggle. It was as if the entire colony had been systematically packed up and had simply vanished into thin air. White and his men searched the deserted site, their dread growing with every step. Then they found it. The only clue left behind. Carved into a wooden post of the fort's palisade was a single word, Croatoan. White also noted the letters, Crow, carved into a nearby tree. He took a small measure of hope from this. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, and it was the home of a friendly Native American tribe led by Chief Mateo, who had previously traveled to England and served as a liaison. And crucially, there was no Maltese cross carved above the word. According to their plan, this meant the colonists had moved willingly and were not in danger. White was desperate to sail south to Croatoan Island to find his family. But once again, fate intervened. A powerful storm, a late-season hurricane, blew in, damaging their ships and making the short journey impossible. With his supplies low and his crew near mutiny, a heartbroken John White was forced to abandon the search and return to England. He would never see America or his family. Again, he died years later, the fate of his colony forever unknown. And so began the legend of the Lost Colony. What happened to the 115 people of Roanoke? For over 400 years, historians, archaeologists, and amateur sleuths have been trying to answer that question, leading to a host of compelling theories. The most straightforward theory, and the one John White himself believed, is that the colonists simply relocated. They packed up their belongings and moved to Croatoan Island to live with Monteo's people. This makes perfect sense. Faced with starvation and isolation, merging with a friendly local tribe would have been the most logical survival strategy. Later English explorers and settlers heard tales from various native tribes about people with gray eyes and European features living among them, lending credibility to this idea. Some accounts even claimed descendants of the colonists were still living in the interior decades later. For a long time, this was the leading explanation. They weren't lost. They just assimilated. However, another more violent theory suggests the colony was attacked and wiped out. While the colonists had a good relationship with the Croatoan tribe, their relationship with other, more powerful mainland tribes, like the Secatan, was strained, sometimes hostile. An earlier English expedition had acted aggressively, and the memory of that conflict lingered. Is it possible that, left vulnerable without their governor and with dwindling resources, they were overrun by a hostile tribe? The lack of bodies or signs of a struggle at the main settlement site complicates this theory. But a massacre could have happened elsewhere, or the evidence could have been cleaned up or eroded by time. The dismantled housing could have been a sign of victors taking useful materials after a raid. Then there's the possibility that the colonists, unable to wait for White, tried to sail back to England on their own. They had a small ship called a pinnace left at the settlement. Perhaps in an act of desperation, they overloaded the vessel and attempted the treacherous Atlantic crossing, only to be lost at sea. This would explain the complete lack of any archaeological evidence of them on the mainland. It's a tragic thought, but a plausible one given the circumstances. And of course, where there is mystery, supernatural theories abound. Some tales speak of strange lights, whispers of curses, or even alien abduction. The name Croatoan itself took on a sinister meaning. For centuries after, the word was seen as a harbinger of doom. It was famously found scrawled in the final diary entry of Edgar Allan Poe before his mysterious death. While these ideas make for fantastic stories, they lack any concrete evidence and remain firmly in the realm of folklore. In recent years, modern archaeology has breathed new life into the search. Archaeologists have been excavating sites on Hatteras Island, the former Croatoan, and on the mainland, and they found some tantalizing clues. Shards of English pottery from the correct time period, a sword hilt, and other European artifacts have been found mixed in with Native American artifacts at sites where it is known that indigenous people lived. This evidence strongly supports the assimilation theory. It suggests that at least some, if not all, of the colonists did indeed go to live with their Native American allies. They may have split into smaller groups, with some going to Croatoan and others venturing deeper into the mainland, which would explain the scattered oral histories and artifacts. So, was the Roanoke colony lost at all? Perhaps the mystery isn't that they vanished, but that they survived by becoming part of a new community, their English identities slowly fading over generations as they became part of the fabric of Native American life. The lost colony may have simply been a found one, hidden in plain sight from the pages of English history. They weren't destroyed, they adapted. Their story is not just one of disappearance, but one of potential survival, cultural merging, and the enduring power of a mystery that continues to captivate us centuries later. The single word Croatoan might not be a clue to their deaths, but a signpost to their new lives. What do you think happened to the settlers of Roanoke? Let me know your favorite theory down in the comments. This mystery is one of those historical rabbit holes that just gets deeper and more fascinating the more you look into it. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.